I'm new reading from this lovely piece of paper, but I promise you everything in it is completely genuine and not pre-rehearsed. But so thank you all so much for coming to see Body Talk, Empathy and Embodiment in Dance Performance. I'm Sophia Bell, and as many of you know, this is the creative component of my graduate thesis for the Masters of Arts program in Humanities. This project was made possible by generous support from the UChicago Theater and Film Studies Department, student creativity grants, the Graduate Student Council, and contributors to Body Talk's GoFundMe page. Now I would like to direct your attention to the director's note that's in the first page of the program. So, Body Talk began with a desire to tell stories about bodies and bodily experiences that are not typically represented in the dance world. I conducted a series of interviews with people with diverse bodily experiences who volunteered their stories to be interpreted through choreography. These interviews involve stories about issues such as eating disorders, body dysmorphia, gender dysphoria, disability, surviving assault, and other narratives that address non-normative bodily experiences. The stories were treated as primary sources, and the interviewees, Sarah Bonanno, Jade Cool, and me, also attended auditions and rehearsals to provide movement direction, criticism, and feedback. The piece is structured around the dancers embodying the interviewees' experience of living in diverse bodies, creating a series of vignettes bookended by group movement in which the dancers embody their own experiences. I devised choreography via collaboration with the interviewees and the dancers. Our sound designer, Ted Moore, who's in the back over there, created audio pieces for each section using audio from recorded interviews as well as music selected by the interviewees and the cast. The structure of this piece creates layers of empathy, embodiment, and understanding through the interplay between performer, interviewee, and audience experience. As mentioned in the program and in the promotional material, hi Frida. Hi. Yeah. I'd like to provide a content warning for this piece for mentions of mental illness, eating disorders, and gender dysphoria. As we get ready to start, please silence your cell phones and refrain from clapping or cheering until the bows at the end of the piece. Please do not take photos or videos during the performance. The piece is actually being recorded tonight by TAPS, and if you'd like access to any photos or videos of Body Talk, you can contact me or one of the performers. There will also be a talk back at the end of the show where you'll be able to ask the cast, the interviewees, and me questions about this process. So thank you again for coming to Body Talk, and I hope you enjoy.
So the first memory of my body is
when I first started feeling gender dysphoria, it was, so the biggest landmark for me was when I was like a girl. And that was something that the longer into life and also very, very
Today, I see a bad bitch, which is not the case every day. I see long, muscular legs, which allow me to walk and run and dance, which mean mobility and have capability of exercise. I see a clean face with a smile on it and big brown curly eyes. I see my awesome beard. It is sort of big to lower day hair. I don't feel a cloud on the sun because I still also see sexually stimulating my body. I don't want my body to be there as proportion for shoulders. I see my little pregnant slash this long is not. I do which is all signs of my awesome stimulation is also the hardest that I think is about this experience. That's my background. Just kind of later Thursday, it's all crazy sad. When things are non-existent. I'm so ashamed of it, even though it's not my fault.
I think what I see in here kind of depends on the day, and at least in terms of what I notice first. So like on days when I'm feeling really bad about my body image, the first thing you'll notice is its size. Including like
what kind of Asian?
the way my stomach looks, how big my legs seem that day. the issues that how we can embody that in a regular way. The most common that is gender dysphoria. So when I'm not really upset with how big my body is, I think I will always
Do you have a story about your body that you want to tell?
So I think I always knew that my body was different from other people's, where I had to go to physical therapy and I had to go to occupational therapy, and I had to wear an eye patch at one point and braces. So I definitely had things I had to do that other people weren't. So I always knew that my body was working differently compared to other people my age, but I was also able to dance, and it was something that I really enjoyed, and I think it was ultimately a really therapeutic thing for me to be able to dance, because I had so much fun doing it up until a certain point. And then it also made me stretch, because I think it was easier for me to be oh yes, I'm stretching for this purpose of being able to be flexible enough to do ballet and do point. So it was good for strengthening. And it wasn't until I think I got to my senior year of high school even that I had really thought about what it means to be disabled, because that wasn't an identity that I had ever really considered for myself. Because I think that when we talk about different identities, disabled is one that still very rarely comes up unless someone prompts. It's sort of always the first one to go. But I remember one of my college essays was a series of vignettes where I talked about being essentially an optimist with cerebral palsy, where I told some stories. Each vignette was a different activity that I tried to do that was really, really hard because of my cerebral palsy, but it was sort of, I learned to do things my own way and adapt in my own way and accommodate for myself. So I think that was the first time I'd ever really thought about how having cerebral palsy affected sort of my outlook on life maybe, and being able to say oh, it's okay for me to do things differently than other people because I can still get them done my own way. And then when I got to college, I met more people who identified as disabled, and I was able to meet someone else who has cerebral palsy, and it was really great getting to know them. And that's when I think I learned a lot more about disability studies and the social model of disability, and how to a certain extent you're kind of only as disabled as your environment allows you to be, which I think is true to a certain extent. I think when you experience chronic pain, that making buildings 100 going to high school and taking like more ownership of that, and then getting to college and having like more explicit language about disability to communicate how it feels to be disabled and how it feels to have to ask for accommodations and be constantly advocating for yourself, and how it can be a frustrating process, but it's also nice to have a community.
So it was January of 2015, and I went in to get a pixie cut, and I remember when I looked in the mirror for the first time after my hair was cut off, and thinking that I looked a lot like my brother, a lot more than I was expecting, and not in a bad way. It was definitely, I guess, like, I always looked up to my brother growing up, but this was more than that, because at the same time I started thinking about whether I could pass as a boy, and the idea of that really excited me, and so that for me was kind of the first clue of maybe I don't identify with being female, because before then, it wasn't that I really identified with being female, it was that I wasn't bothered enough by being labeled as a woman to really question that I was something else. But after I cut my hair off, I was able to start playing more with my gender expression. I started wearing a lot of clothes from my brother's closet that he left behind when he'd gone to college. And the more that I played with my gender, the more I realized that I liked to express myself in a more androgynous or masculine way. And so just a couple months later, I remember I was switching quite frequently between presenting in a more feminine way and presenting more masculinely and androgynously. I remember that I was wearing a dress, and I was in Berkeley walking down one of the streets downtown, and I caught my reflection in like a shop window, and I just remember thinking that what I was looking at wasn't me. It just, the dress felt so wrong, and that was the first time I had experienced something that I could label as being very strong and explicit gender dysphoria. And so after that, I started identifying to myself as non-binary and kind of just seeing if that label fit me. And the longer that I kind of identified that way to myself, the more I felt in tune with it in a way that I never really felt attuned to womanhood or being read as female. And so, kind of over the course of the next year or so, I became more and more comfortable with just dressing as I wanted to, which ended up being exclusively androgynously and more masculinely. And eventually I started coming out to people. I started using Jade instead of my birth name, which was a very, very femme-coded name.
realizing that like my identity could actually be something that I felt I owned and not just something that was incidental to my existence. Like when I cut my hair off, it was like suddenly my hair was a part of my body that I could take control of and that I was proud of and I could really make my own instead of just something that was on my body. And the same kind of thing happened when I started going by Jade. It was like I was claiming this as my own and I was creating myself in a way that felt authentic to me.
I've had some type of body dysmorphia and eating disorder since I was about 10 or 11 years old, but I didn't get treatment for it until about 3 years ago. And in treatment, they don't let you see your weight, or they don't normally let you see your weight. So a couple of weeks ago, I saw my weight, and it had been months since I had seen it the last time. And I had just gone to a normal doctor's appointment. The doctor knew that I had an eating disorder. She knew that I wasn't supposed to see my weight. So I got into my little gown, got undressed. She brought in the scale, and I stepped onto the scale with my back to the display because I can't see my weight. And I stepped down, and I turned around too quickly, just as she was like reaching down to clear the display, and I saw the number. And it's a number that I haven't been in a very long time. And I couldn't bring myself to tell the doctor that I had seen it. So after the appointment was over, I got my stuff and I had to walk across campus to class. And as soon as I left the doctor's office, I called my partner, and I had just a full-on breakdown while walking through the snow across campus. And I was sobbing, like I was completely distraught. Like I went from feeling, before the doctor's appointment, like not neutral but not horrible about my body, to after seeing my weight, feeling like my body was so incredibly unacceptable that I could not live in this body. And like, I had to go to class, like I had to just having that extreme intense emotion and realizing that like once I get across campus, like I'm going to have to walk inside and like participate in class was just, it seemed so impossible. And so when I called my partner, he listened to me sob for a significant period of time. And then he was just like, he was there for me, like he listened to me, and then he helped me figure out what I was going to do next. He didn't argue with me and try and prove to me that I was beautiful and I just couldn't see it. Like he just listened and then told me to drink some water
and helped me calm down before my class. And so I got across campus, I got to the building. I stood outside the door of the classroom and I hung up and I took a deep breath and I walked into class. And I really, I didn't feel great during the class. But after it was over, I ate a snack, I went about my day, and I'm still really struggling with having seen my weight. But the fact that my partner could have de-escalated the situation from this body is unacceptable and I can't exist in it, to being calm enough to attend class was so wild. And I think it was really because he was there supporting me, even through the phone. He was there and wasn't trying to convince me that I was beautiful. He wasn't trying to stop me from feeling bad. He let me feel my emotions. He sat with me through those super intense moments. And then he helped me pick myself back up and figure out what to do next.
What would you like your relationship with your body to be in the future?
I want to feel comfortable inside my body. And I want my body to feel comfortable in the world around it. And I want love to be a part of that relationship too. Not like the kind of love you feel for an old couch, which you know you should probably get rid of. Like the love you feel for a friend you look forward to seeing every day on your way to work.
Sarah says that she knows a permanent disability, like cerebral palsy, is not something from which you can recover from, but something for which you must find strategies to work with. But she's worried that as she gets older, she'll become more accident prone, and chronic pain will become a more permanent part of her life. I want to have a strong, stable relationship with my body. One where I can appreciate everything that it's done for me and all the struggles that it's been through. I just want to keep loving it more and more each day.
Jade told me that they would like to cultivate a feeling of belonging in their body. Through a series of hormones, surgeries, and self-acceptance, they would like to feel at ease in claiming this body as their own.
I want to be proud of my body, of the way that it looks, of the way that it feels, and of the things it can do.
Sophia says she wants to feel neutral about her body, but maybe even positive in some days or some moments. And she doesn't want her life to be defined by her body, but instead who she is as a daughter, friend, sister, and partner.
I want to feel confident in my body. Confident so that I don't feel insecure about how I walk, how I talk, and how I look. Confidence that doesn't rely on validation. Confidence that doesn't rely on me being in control.
I want to see my body as useful first, and not ornamental. I want to stop trying to exert a control and instead give way to a faith in the way my body works, looks, stutters, and heals.
I want to respect my body, its strengths, weaknesses, and appreciate it as my anchor to the physical world, a tool for communication, love, play, and exploration.